Hello and welcome to another Aziel Arts live stream. My name is THADDAEUS and I'm digital and mixed media artist from New York City. In these streams, you are going to come with me as I build films and animation using Unreal Engine and other tools. This is a super chill process live stream. I'm going to make mistakes, I'm going to solve problems, and you're going to be along with me for the ride. Hello everyone who's joining live. I would love to know where you guys are coming from. I'm from New York. Where are you all tuning in from? I see Shahid, see Candela. Hello, welcome. Hi Daphne. Drop in the chat where you're joining me from. While you're doing that, so this stream is going to be about building an environment or a sequence from Avatar: The Way of Water, which is a really amazing film, not just because of the visual effects, but just because of well, actually most of the visual effects. I won't comment on the story at all, but I just love the way it looks. It's always, both the first Avatar and the second Avatar were both like pushing the boundaries of animation, just dynamic simulation, all that stuff. So if I just jump over here to my working view, I'm going to be building this, or I'm going to be attempting to build this environment that comes from this sequence in the film. So it's kind of shallow water, very blue, bright, and sand, coral reefs, things like that. So instead of kind of building one particular angle from one particular shot or angle, I'm going to try to build an environment that kind of matches this look and feel so that we can go ahead and use that for our own animations, films. You can make your own film if you build this environment that way. And I kind of think that that's like what's amazing about the workflow specifically through Unreal Engine, is that you can build a fully virtual environment and then, you know, location scout through that environment, set up your virtual cameras, and it's very different than my background, which is 3D animation. So I mean 3D animation in Maya, not Unreal Engine. So we're gonna jump into this. I'm very excited. For those of you who are joining me, around 45 minutes or an hour into the stream, I'm going to be giving away my full Unreal Engine filmmaking package. So if you like making animation and films with Unreal Engine, I'm going to be giving away one of those free, where I take you through the full process and you can build a film in 30 days or less. So more on that, but I'm going to be giving that away later in the stream, and then I'm also going to be giving those watching you a discount. So I'll get to that later, but let's jump into starting to build this sequence. So if I jump back over to my working view, I might jump into looking at this moving reference, but I actually have some still images that I'm going to use, which I think will be a little bit easier to focus on. So I've gotten some images from the film that have some different angles and cover some different assets that we can build. And I used an AI upscaler to try to get more detail out of them, so hopefully we can see well enough. But I'm going to look at these references and I'm going to start trying to strategize about what I need to build here, because I'm starting with a completely blank environment. And I'm also going to probably be starting to jump into Unreal Engine's new feature, which is the Procedural Content Generation Framework, I believe it's called, or PCG. And that just dropped recently, so I'm learning how to use that. So I'm going to try to be using this to build this really lush environment. So knowing that I'm going to do that, I need to kind of identify what are the groundwork I need to lay first. So obviously I need to make a sandy environment. I need to roughly set up the lighting and the water layer that's going to be above us. And then I can start probably layering in these assets. And we're going to see how far we can get in this stream, and then I'll pick it up from the next stream for part 2, which will probably be a part 2 for this, because this is a lot of stuff. So looking at this, I'm going to start by creating my landscape and a rough lighting scenario that kind of captures this look and feel, and then we can tweak from there. So I'm going to move this reference over and jump into Unreal Engine. First thing I'm going to do is make I'm starting from empty project here. I did some experimentation, but we're going to imagine that we're starting from an empty project. I'm going to make a new folder for my maps. So I'll call it maps, or you could call it levels. Open that folder, and I'm going to add a new level by clicking the add button, hitting level, L underscore avatar world. Double click that to open it. So we have a blank level here. And as I'm working, feel free to just drop any questions or anything you have in the chat. This is super chill, so I'll stop and answer, or if you have suggestions as I'm going for how I can do things differently, just feel free to just drop it in the chat. It's no problem. So I'm starting with this blank here, blank scene. I'm going to create a landscape by hitting the plus button. Actually, sorry, not up there. Drop down here from the select mode, come to landscape, and I'll just use a standard landscape. I'm going to drop the location down to 0. I don't know why it's at 100 in Z by default. I will go ahead and hit create. And of course we don't see anything because there's no lights. So I'm going to come up here to Windows, Environment Light Mixer, and I'm going to see what I need to create this underwater lighting effect. And I think I will approach it as if we are actually simulating that there's a sky above us, that the sky is scattering through the surface of the water and then hitting the ground. So I'll try to keep this as accurate as possible, and then we can always tweak creatively from there. So I will start with a skylight and atmospheric light, sky atmosphere, maybe not volumetric cloud, but I will create a height fog, which we will be for sure using. Okay, so I have my landscape and my sky. All right, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of variation to my landscape just to have something to work with. So I'll create a new layer here in the landscape window, rename it, call it hills or something, and I'll choose the noise tool up here and make my brush really huge, and I'll just, oop, that's too much. Lower the strength. That might even be still too much. Maybe I'll have some, like a trench here, and then lower the tool strength even more and just add some variation. Okay. Hit the smooth one, and I'll just smooth out some of these harsher hills. Maybe increase my strength a bit. Don't want it to be too intense. Just adding some variation just to start. Okay, that looks good. Switch back over to the selection mode, and let's grab a starting material for our landscape, which, looking at the reference here, is going to be something like whitish sand. So if I come up here to the plus button, come to Quixel Bridge, move my reference back over here, and I'm going to look for some sand to start. Actually, I think I will look in the, I know there is a beach pack of assets, so I'm going to jump over to the beach pack and see if I will just grab a bunch of those. So come over here to this little button here, collections, environment, and natural, and I'm looking for tropical beach. I feel like that will fit the vibe of this pretty well. And I see already some sand that might work, so I'm going to go ahead and grab these, shift click both of them, choose high quality, and download them. I'll scroll through here. Yeah, I think a lot of these assets will probably work pretty well. Ooh, this is also a really good sand. Clicking on that. Download it. I'm just going to download a bunch so we can try out some different ones and see what looks good. Okay. So in my content, Megascans, surfaces folder here on the left, I have some sand materials, and I'm gonna click on my landscape, scroll over here to the landscape material and drop it in. It's a bit too bumpy, so I'll try this one. Looks pretty good. And what about this one? I feel like this one looks the closest to what I'm seeing in the reference here. That actually looks pretty close. And don't worry about looking like it's repeating because we'll fix that later. So next I will grab some little rock assets that I'm going to be scattering around. Actually, before I do that, let's worry about the water and the lighting. Let's just get it to a usable place. So I'm thinking that I will put a huge plane up there on the top and add a water material to it, and that will help it look like there's some water above us. So I have gone ahead and if you come up here to edit and plugins, I have gone ahead and enable the water plugin. So if you type in water, there's one right here. And I've done that because I'm not sure if I would actually use the material that comes with the water plugin. I might just use that. But if not, I'm definitely going to use some of the textures that are part of that plugin. So I've just went ahead and enabled that. And so let's see what we can do. I'm going to hit the plus button here, create shape and a plane, drag that plane up, and rotate it around. Okay. So let us go to the engine content, which is this engine folder here. If you can't find that folder, you can always come here to settings and make sure your engine show engine content is enabled. But I'm going to come to engine and I'm going to type in water, and that will search the water specific materials that came with the water plugin. So let's see if we can use one of those materials. I'm looking for a material. Let's see here. H-Lod water, is that the right one? I cannot remember. M water, let's try that. Drag that onto our plane. That is not looking good. Simple river. Oh, the shaders are compiling, forgot. I'll let that compile for a moment. And it's looking good from above, but not necessarily from below. When I rotate it, the plane, if I rotate it upside down, it's not really giving me what I want. So I'm wondering if I should actually make my own material so I can get it to look correct. If I look at the reference here, we don't need it to be too complicated. We just need it to kind of just be reflective and just kind of let us know that the top of the ocean is up there. There's no white oceany foam or anything. It's just really shallow water. So I'm just going to go ahead and make my own material really quick and see if that works better. So I'm going to come back here to the content folder and make a new folder called materials. Right click in here and create a material, M_water, I guess. I mean, and this always happens. I always have one idea about how I think it's going to work, and then I try it and it doesn't really work that well, and I have to do something else. That's part of just the creation process. So you're here with me on the journey. So I've made this material water. I'm going to right click. What should I use as a, okay. So I am going to come back to the engine content and I'm going to type in water again. And I'm looking for some sort of normal map I can use for the water. Maybe I can even type in normal. Here we go. Water normal. I'll just drag in both just in case. So here's some normal maps that I can use as a base for this material. And the thing I'm going to use with them is called chaos. So if I come into the engine content folder and I type in chaos, what I want is chaos 4-way normal. And what this is going to do is it's going to take a static texture and kind of like move it in different directions. It's going to shimmer it kind of. So I'll try taking this. Let's just try this one first. I'll type it into the texture and it doesn't work right away because I have to actually switch this texture sample to a texture object. So convert to a texture object by right clicking, plug it into texture 2D here, and then I'll plug the result into the normal map of the material. And you can kind of see here, maybe I'll just apply the material to the plane so you can see it in the stream a little bit better. I'll hit save. It's very big. Let me just real quick add a texture coordinates. I forgot. Type in coordinates, texture coordinate, and I will just add a simple multiply after it and type and plug that into coordinate for the material and hold S to create a parameter that's a float, and I'll call it water size. Plug that in, and I want to multiply it by 5 maybe. Hit save. Still pretty big. Let's multiply it by a large number, maybe 15. Hit save. Still really big. It's because I'm looking at it upside down. One thing I'm going to do is make this double-sided because it's really annoying to keep having it disappear. So I'll come over to the material here and switch it to double-sided. Hit save. Now, this should not disappear when I'm looking down at it. There it is. Oh, I forgot. I didn't apply it to the plane. How silly of me. Okay, so there it is. So that's moving. The normal map is moving kind of like wave patterns. So now it's too small. So if I up it to 10, maybe that'll be the sweet spot. And let's also try this other texture here. Convert to a texture object. Let's see which one looks best. Hit save. And this one would be probably smaller. I'm getting some weird tearing. I'm just going to stick to this old one here. Oops. And delete this one. Okay, so this will be our water normal map. And we'll bring it back up to maybe 5. Save. And we can also change the speed of the water. The speed of the water can be, we'll hit S again, or hold S and click an empty space to create another parameter and call it water speed. And plug that into the speed input here and make it 0.5. So it's, very subtle. Okay, so that's our normal map. Now let's make it a little transparent. So plug a float into, actually we need to go to this material, make it a, not an opaque material, but a translucent material. Then hit save again. And in opacity, maybe I don't want to. Maybe I would like to keep it opaque for now. I'm not sure. I'll leave it opaque for now. And I don't want it to block the light. That's the only thing. So maybe I will keep it opaque, turn off two-sided, and then it'll be transparent from below. And then I will extend it really big. Still not sure yet. Well, we might come back to this, how I want to do this. But I'll just expand this really big here. This will be our water, and then I will also add a color by hitting 3 and clicking an empty space, and double click on that color, change it to something blue and bright, plug it into base color, and I also want to lower the roughness, so I'll hit S, make it roughness, and plug that into the roughness input, and now it's 0 roughness, which is what we want. I'll lower the brightness too. Hit save. Okay, so that kind of looks like a water above us. And maybe I will even, let's try, trying to figure out here. Let's try to make it unlit and see how that looks. Not good. Okay, good. Scratch that. I'll just plug this into the emissive color to give it a little bit of brightness. There we go. Okay. I don't want it that bright, so I'll make a little multiply here in between. This will be the last thing we'll do to this material for now. And plug in another parameter here, which I'll call water brightness, and make it 3 or maybe 0.2. Let's see. Okay, so that's our water above us. That's starting to look pretty good. I'll just extend this even more. Maybe 1,000. And then in the material, I'll repeat it again since it's getting really big. Add a 15 in the water size. Oh, and Unreal Engine crashed. Look at that. Wonderful. Okay. So, yes, I agree, Weird Science X. That is exactly what we are on the way to before Unreal Engine completely crashed on us. So I'm going to open up this again, and I hope we didn't lose too much. I should have saved. Oh my gosh. Classic. So I'm gonna wait for Unreal Engine to open up again. And actually, while I'm doing that, let me ask you all. So while Unreal Engine is opening again, I see Weird Science is excited about the PGC. I think it's PCG. It's a really confusing name. Procedural Content Generation Framework, right? Yeah. So why don't you drop in the chat what you are excited about to learn here? Like, what's your what's your level of expertise with Unreal Engine, and what are you hoping to get out of this stream? Because that would help me also know who I'm talking to here as I'm opening Unreal Engine again. So drop that in the chat here. Unreal Engine, we have open again. Jump over to maps, avatar world. Ah, looks like we did not lose too much. Wonderful. No, it's all good. I get confused by that name as well. Okay, let me just double check that the material came through with some of the changes we made. All right, that looks pretty good. We'll stick with that for now. Oh my gosh. Okay, we might have hit a bug. Oh my gosh. All right, I'm not touching that water material anymore for the rest of the stream. Let's open it up again. Yeah, word science. That is, it's new to same deal. Oops, sorry, same deal for me as well. I'm new to it, but I have gotten it to work in sort of scattering some assets and getting them to interact with each other. So we're gonna actually jump into that if I can get us to that place. But it's pretty powerful. I keep rewatching that announcement stream and trying to implement some of the stuff they're doing. So we're gonna try it together, but I'm pumped for that as well. I agree. Hi, Manuel Indy. Welcome from Mexico. Just saw that. Okay, so we got this water. I'm not gonna touch that material again because that is what kept crashing us. Maybe I will make a material instance for it so that we can modify some of the things we made in it. mi_water. I'll apply that. Save all. Now I should be able to open the material instance. And since we made those parameters, I can just do some adjustments. Water size. I can adjust. Looks good. And yeah, that's good for now. Okay. Next, I'm thinking we should just add some basic caustics into our, so the caustics are these water effect of the light shining through the water and rippling on the ground. And so what I'm going to try to do is maybe use that using a light function or light material. That's my plan. So let's jump in and add that in. We can always tweak it more later. So I'm going to come over here to my material folder. Let me just save everything really quick and right click in the empty space and make a new material. This one I'll call M and then underscore caustics. Open it up. And the first thing I need to do to make this caustic material work is to shift the material domain here. I'm going to hit the drop down and I'm going to change it to light function. So now, excuse me, it's going to be a material that works with lights. You can apply it to lights. It works in the light input in the material. So I'm going to do a very similar thing that I did to my water. I'm going to come over here to the engine. I'm going to type in caustics. I'm going to grab one of these caustic materials here. And then I'm going to grab a chaos. And this one, I'm not going to use a normal one. I'm going to just use the normal one, but not for normal maps. This one here, motion 4-way chaos. I'm going to right click, convert this to a texture object. Plug it into texture, plug it into emissive color. Okay. So that looks like what we want. And I want to also do real quick the other things I did to the material. So add a coordinate node. multiply it by a parameter by pressing S and clicking. The parameter is going to be called caustic size. Oops. So I can change it later, plug that into texture coordinates. And if you set it to 0, of course, it's going to make it 0 size. So I'll set the default value here to 1. And I also want to be able to change the color. So, sorry, not typing color. I'm going to type in multiply, add a multiply node here, hold 3 and click in the empty space. Plug the color into the multiply node, and then plug that into the emissive color, because I'm multiplying the color by the color of the caustics by this other color. And this other color, I will also convert, right click, convert to parameter, and call it caustic color. And the default will make it like a whitish blue. Okay. Very good. I'll hit save. Close that and come over to my materials and right click on the caustics. Create material instance. All right, and now we need to make it light for this to be inside of. So hit the plus button here, come over to lights, and I know it works with a spotlight. I can't remember if it works with a directional light, but I'm going to grab that light, scroll down here to light function material, and I'm going to drag that caustic into the light function, and it's not bright enough for you to see, so I'm going to need to make this pretty bright. So if I scroll up here and increase it to you're starting to see it there. And I want to also increase the attention radius and the cone angle, outer cone angle and inner cone angle, so that it's over a large area. You can start to see it projecting onto the ground here. I want these angles as large as I can. I'll increase the intensity up to 500. And I think what's happening is that our light from our water material is kind of messing us up. So I'm going to come over to the water brightness and lower it for now to 0. Okay. And I'm in direct sunlight right now, so I'm going to actually adjust my sun and lower its intensity. There we go. So now we can see the caustics working here. So that's pretty cool. I can raise it up here. Increase my radius. See, is it source radius? I forget. Tension radius. There we go. Okay, and now I need to come back over here to the caustic size and increase it quite a bit. So it covers all of that area. Great. We can even adjust the caustic color and see if that... I'm actually wondering if the material in the light is actually affecting the color. It might not be. So maybe we'll just keep this up at white, and then I will adjust this light itself to be a little blue. There we go. Because the light function is kind of like a gobo filter, if you know what that is. Great. So we are getting there. And my lighting, I need to adjust as well. So if I come up here, first thing I'll do is actually add some fog because I know it's going to affect the color. I will come over, scroll down to volumetric fog and scroll up to fog density. I'm going to increase the fog density to maybe like 0.1 or maybe 0.5. Okay. And the fog color, I think is it this color? Can't remember. No, it's not that color. If I scroll down to the volumetric fog section, I can adjust the color here. If we look at our reference, it's going to be this bluish color. So maybe I can even color pick it. There we go. Great. Okay. We can even raise the emissive color, which I think will help it look a little bit more like it's underwater. Cool. That's starting to look good. I want to scroll up here to the, where is it? Let's play with the view distance a little bit. Make it look really foggy. There we go. And the extinction scale will lower it even more. Okay. That is starting to look like we are underwater. Excellent. Last thing I'll probably do is I will take my directional light and I'll just tint it to cheat it as if it was, you know, scattering through the water. Something like that, perhaps. Okay. That is looking pretty close to our base sand and lighting look. Okay. Let's keep it there for now. Any, oh yeah, the caustics thing. That took me actually, I'm noticing here in the chat, Weird Science has mentioned that's useful to know. I was wondering how to create caustics. Yeah, caustics have given me a hard time in various projects. I have tried different ways. The other way you can do is create a decal, because I don't actually know enough like programming and noding knowledge to create a actual simulated caustics. So I'm usually using things like this that are a little bit easier to set up. And one of them is the lighting, and which is closest to what you would have because the caustics are light. You know, in the real world, in our reference in the video, the caustics are the light that's scattering down, you know, through the water here. So it should look like light, but you can also do it as a decal that's kind of like over top of things. It's another way to do it. We'll stick with this for now. I'll just make one small tweak because I love tweaking and make it a little smaller. There we go. Okay, save. Oh my gosh. Okay, so now we are ready to start adding some assets in. And if I am looking at this reference here, I need to start identifying what are the assets that are going to be building our environment and making it look like the reference. And let me actually pull up the video again. Let's watch through it. When you're feeling confused about how to approach these sort of environments, I think it's helpful to think about the largest shapes here and work down from that. So the largest shapes here are these kind of like pillars that are shooting up into they're kind of, I guess, coral structures or rocks that are shooting up into the air. They're creating these cave-like shapes, and everything is kind of growing on. We can almost call them underwater trees, is kind of what it looks like to me. So those are the biggest shapes. Then we have these medium-sized rocks. Then we have some slightly smaller coral elements here, and then a bunch of just smaller kind of foliage around that. So the best thing I can do here is create these bigger structures first and work my way down. And the bigger structures, for example, I can using this new generative framework, I can use to spawn other objects on top of. So they'll really help me build this environment. And I'm thinking I will model them in Maya. But before we get there, I just want to show you the generative framework as I understand it, and so that we can start adding to it. So we'll build our first setup here, and then as I create new assets, I can add to it. So if you haven't watched the live stream on it, it's really exciting, but I'm learning what I'm learning slowly from that live stream and from documentation online. So bear with me, because I am not an expert in this, but I am slowly understanding it. So I'm going to do my best to explain it as I'm working. So the first thing you need to use the, what is it called again? Weird Science? PCG. Is you're going to need to enable it in the plugins. So if I come up here to the edits and then plugins, and come up here to I type in, what is the plugin called? Let me look it up. I have it in my notes. Give me a moment here. If anybody knows the name of the plugin, drop it in the chat. Oh my gosh, I'm dumb. So it's called the procedural generated. So if you type in procedural content generation framework, this is the name of the plugin. You're gonna make sure you enable this. This will give you all the functionality that you need. Had a brain fart there. I totally forgot the name of it was, but I have it enabled here. So this will allow me to come down into my environment and create, using the plus button, I come down here to volumes. There you should see a PCG volume. Click on that volume. I'm going to drag it up here. And this is all you need. So I'm going to drag it into roughly the center of my environment and scale it up to cover a larger area. And it needs to, it can, I know, simulate on objects, or not objects, on just a blank area or on a landscape. So we have a landscape, so I'm going to use the landscape here. So I have this, and if I come over here to the PCG drop down here on the right, graph instance, and then instance, there's a graph input here. And you need to make a graph in order to be part of this volume. So come up here, click the none drop down here, and come up here to create new asset PCG graph. I will make it in my, let's make it in my general content area here. Call it PCG. We'll just do it for the rocks. So I'll say PCG rocks, hit save. And now if I double click that to open, this is my graph. And this graph is going to be how we procedurally generate all the meshes on our ground. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is make a surface sampler node, and the sampler node is going to take the landscape that we have here and get the data from it in order to put stuff on. So if I drag off of this input node here, which is the first node, and I type in surface sampler, this is going to be sampling the landscape. Oh, I'm glad, Candela. That's awesome to hear. I do too. I learned a lot as well. Thanks for dropping that in. That's always some encouragement. Okay, so we have the surface sampler here, and this is going to be, if we right click on it, we can hit debug. And if I scroll, actually, I'm going to expand this here. I scroll down under the debug section here, and I change the extents to, is it relative? Absolutes, let's say, and I increase the size. Oh, I think I have to hit generate first. So in the volume, once you've made any nodes, the first thing you have to do is hit generate, because if you don't hit generate, it's not actually displaying what you're working on. So hit generate, and I don't see anything yet. That's okay, we're gonna keep going. So I have the surface sampler. That I'm gonna do is I'm gonna transform the points. Actually, before I transform the points, I'm just gonna spawn stuff so we can actually see what we're working on. So I have my input, I have the surface sampler that's sampling the landscape. Now I need to make a static mesh spawner. So if I drag off here, make a static mesh spawner, click on that. The static mesh spawner can be literally any mesh. So let's go grab a mesh that we can use to start populating, maybe like a rock or something. Come up here to Quicksilver Bridge. Let's grab a rock. I'll come back to that environment, natural, and tropical beach section. And maybe this beach boulder would be good. Ooh, coral. Let's try the coral. Okay, so I'll download, it's very small though. Now let's stick with the boulder. Okay, so we're gonna download that boulder. And we're gonna add it to our project. So now we have the mesh inside of our project. So now we can come back over here. I hide my reference here, it's blocking. Okay, so if we come back over here to our graph, we can come over here to the static mesh spawner and scroll down to up here. No, scroll up to mesh entries, this section. And we're gonna hit the plus button under or next to mesh entries, expand index, descriptor, and then we have a static mesh section here that we can drag something into. So if I come to my megascans and my 3D assets and then my beach boulder, I can drag my beach boulder into the static mesh input here. All right, hit save, and let's try to get this boulder to show up on our landscape here. Okay, so I'm gonna turn off the debug view here, hit generate, and let's see, I think it should be showing up here. So let's see if we have a problem somewhere. I made another version of this graph called PCG graph to test it, and that was working. So I'm going to see what's the problem here. Let me just check what size the rocks are in case I am... Okay, so they are the right size. So we should be getting some rocks here. Anybody feel free to drop in the chat if you know what the problem is here. We are debugging in real time. Let's see, new PCG. Got my landscape. Got my surface. Ah, that was a dumb problem. So I just took the input and plugged it directly into surface. What I need to do is grab the landscape. Oh my gosh. Okay, so once I grab the landscape and plug that into surface sampler instead, that is what's gonna let me see. Oh my gosh. I'm learning. We're learning together. Okay, so I have the landscape plugging into surface sampler and it is simulating the rocks across the whole area of my volume. And what I can do is I can add some variation to that by, if I pull up my notes here, adding the transform points node. So if I plug in between the spawner and the sampler, if I drag off here and I type in transform points, that's going to take the points that's sampling on the landscape and it's going to modify them. And in this case, I can add a randomness to them. So I drag this down here and we come over to rotation and I add 360. Oh, that's minimum. So minimum rotation is 0 and maximum rotation is 360. Now they're all randomly rotating between 0 and 360. And I can also do the same thing with scale. So I can scale them between 0.2 and 10, or that's too much. 4 maybe. So now I have some random rocks. And I can take this volume and I can even drag it over a larger area. So that is the basics of how you use PCG at its simplest level. You have an input, you have a sampler, you do something to that data, and then you use it to spawn stuff. So I'm going to start adding a few more things to this spawner and so we can test out its uses for us. If I'm looking specifically at the scene that I'm trying to build, I need some rocks, but I also need some coral. So I'm going to just start adding assets to this and see how it's starting to look. There's going to be a bit of an experimentation for us. So I've also downloaded some coral. So if I come to the mesh spawner and I add under the mesh entries, I can add another entry. So if I hit the plus button, I can add another entry, and under that static mesh, I can drag in my coral. So now I'm also generating little corals. Okay. And sorry, I'm gonna stop moving this around. We can come back over to our plus button here, come back to Quixel Bridge, and I can start adding assets to this scatter. So if I look at my reference here, what I'm looking for are these type of things. So little rocks. I'll actually grab this whole coral pack here. This one as well. And these will be great shapes to start building. I think this one is part of this pack. I can use this, nah, maybe not that one. This rock looks good. Can use this rock. Can use this rock. Okay. And let's start adding even more meshes to this. So hit the plus button to add another mesh, drop it down under descriptor, static mesh. Under my 3D assets, I will add some more Thai beach rocks. Add another one. This one. Add another one. And then I have a bunch of corals, so I'm going to go ahead and add those as well. I think there's 5 of them. Maybe I'll just add 3. Okay, we are starting to scatter. Really cool. If we come over here into our surface sampler, we can start to mess with our density as well. So the surface sampler has points per square meter, and I can increase that if I increase it up to 0.5. That should increase. Let's see. That doesn't seem to do anything. I thought that would increase it. Oh, that's okay. I think it's maybe under transform points. I'm thinking the points per square meter should have increased the number of these. That makes sense to you as well, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. I have a basic scatter working. I need to modify the logic somewhat. I also need to add the blending here between the sand and the rocks, which we're going to be doing with runtime virtual textures. And I need to sculpt the actual hero kind of underwater trees here. And that will get us pretty close to what we're doing. So unfortunately, we are looking like we're at the hour mark here, and I don't want to take up too much of everyone's time. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the giveaway, and we will pick this up in the next stream where we left it off here, because I want to be cognizant of your time joining me here. So here we go. If you are still here with me joining live, I'm about to do the giveaway. Put a fire emoji in the chat, so I know you're still here with me live, and I will be doing a random drawing of those who are joining and want to win this Unreal Engine filmmaking package that I'm going to be giving away. And I'm going to talk through really briefly what it is while you're doing that, so that if you're also interested in it, you can grab it for yourself later. Okay. So, Unreal Engine Filmmaker. This is what I'm about to give away. Unreal Engine Filmmaker is a beginner's guide to making your first cinematic short film in less than 30 days or animation. And this is for those of you who really want to use Unreal Engine as a filmmaking tool or to make animations. You're a 3D artist, you're looking at Unreal Engine, and you just want to learn more, take the next step, go deeper, and actually come out of it with a finished piece for your demo reel or a finished film to apply to festivals with, whatever it is. And this course I've designed because this is what I have also done myself using Unreal Engine, and so I would like to teach that to you. And if you'd like to learn that with me, this is what Unreal Engine Filmmaker is. And I take you from beginner with using the engine to finishing your film. So how do I do that? Oh, and here's an example. So this is a film that I made completely with Unreal Engine. It's called Breath. You can find it on my YouTube channel. And it's completely done in Unreal Engine. And when I started this, was more of a beginner. And I learned through the process. I created all the shots in Unreal Engine and did very little. I did no post work to it, just did all the rendering inside the engine, exported it, and edited it in Premiere Pro, which is what I show you how to do. So if this is something that you would like to learn how to do, that's what this is for. So check out that longer version if you'd like to see the full film on the YouTube channel. But it has everything. It has animation, it has dynamics, it has camera motion. So how do I get you there? How do you get from beginner to making that? And I've built a process for you. So we start with the basics at the beginning here, how to download and install the engine if you haven't already done that. If you have, great. But I start there. Then we jump into the world building section, which is what we're pretty much been doing on this stream. So we build a desert environment in this case. So we build a desert environment from scratch. You learn how to run runtime virtual textures to blend your assets together. You learn how to build materials. You learn how to do all that stuff so that you can create an environment for your film or your animation to live in and be shot in. And I'm also working on a resource that's going to be helpful for you moving forward. It's a beginner's guide to lighting, which is the next step in this little path here, and I'm almost done with that. I'm working on that. The beta will be out soon, and that is going to take you as beginners, 3D artists, through how to light, how to approach lighting, because I know it can be a little bit daunting at times. How to even approach, like, I have a completely black scene. I don't even know where to start. Do I have the sun? Do I have the area light, the point light? So that will guide you through that process. We have the Virtual Filmmakers online course, which is bunch of lessons on virtual filmmaking. So I take you through animation, take you through how to animate your cameras using an iPad, how to animate rocks falling, that sort of stuff. So if you don't know animation, you will learn it in that course. Then near the end, we come to a masterclass where I take you through everything from beginning to end, full process of making the film in a 30-minute masterclass. So you can take all of that stuff and use it together. And then finally, I also have Weather Effects Wizard, which is if you want to add some more dynamism, some more weather effects and snow and rain and that kind of things to your environments and make your films feel a lot more dynamic. That is where you can do that. And at the end, you can send your film to me and I will give a personalized review. I'll go shot by shot through your film, give you all the feedback that you need to take it to the next level. That's personal to your film and you. And so I shoot all of those for everybody. So that's the full process of how I take you from being a beginner to making your film. And you can ask questions along the way, all that stuff. I'm available. That is Unreal Engine Filmmaker. So I'm about to give away to one person this full package for free. And it's quite a lot of value. You can see here it's all stacked up. The different bonuses and courses and everything that goes into it. So I'm going to randomly choose of those of you who put the fire emoji in the chat here. Let's see, who is it? And it is Candela. Congratulations, you won. So you have won this full package to Unreal Engine Filmmaker. All you have to do is email I won to this email here, info@azlarts.com. Thank you so much for joining the stream with me. And the rest of you, if you're interested in still picking this up, for the next 8 hours, I'm giving 40% off. So usually it would be $500, but I'm giving a discount for those of you who are joining live to this live stream, and it's going to be 40% off that to $299. So there's a link below this video. If you want to jump on that deal, you can do it for the next 8 hours, and I'm going to deactivate that link. But thank you everybody for joining me. I'm going to be picking up where I left off on the next stream next Friday, same time, same place, and we're going to be starting to build in virtual textures. Like I said, we're going to be going a little more in depth with the procedural generating framework, and we're going to just continue our journey of building this shop from avatars. So thank you everybody for joining me, and I will see you in the next one.